Now, for the whole month, I wasn't here last week, but my focus, in fact, my personal focus throughout the month, and inshallah throughout my life, and hopefully inshallah your lives too, was this topic which I started the month with. The topic of tadabbur, or we say tafakkur, or ta'ammul, or i'mal al-aql, or tahdiq al-qalb, or taqlib al-shay fi al-dhihn. Reflection, rumination, pondering, contemplating, dwelling on, deliberating on, flipping things over in your mind, trying to get a very deep and profound understanding, and not just understanding, comprehension of what you see with your eyes, what you hear with your ears, what you read, and what you experience. Because I mentioned 2 weeks ago and before that there's a danger, there's a khatar, a danger of us very quickly glossing over things and not dwelling on things. And in this way we read the Quran from the beginning to the end, we hear the Quran from the beginning until the end, we attend so many lectures, talks, reminders, reflections, khutab, and it has little or no effect. And the danger is that this continues until our death, and we are not impacted. And this is at least one of the fundamental differences between us and our noble Salaf, beginning with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they had a very deep and profound, not just understanding, but comprehension and reflection on the implications of what they saw, what they read, and what they heard, and what they experienced. What they saw and what they heard and what they read affected them, it impacted them, it caused a transformation. You could see it in them. And this, illa man rahimallah, doesn't seem to be the case with us in this day and age. And there are a multiplex of factors, a cocktail, a combination of variables and considerations for this. But one of them is our lack of, number one, comprehension, and two, reflection. Now, I don't want to speak for too long, but I wanted to make this reminder relevant to the last 10. Who can remind us of the dua that the Messenger taught us through Aisha radiallahu anha to say in these last 10? Allahumma innaka afuwan tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni or fa'fu anna. It's nice to hear it from the youngsters, mashallah, well done. Now, the question is, number one, this is a very short dua. When she asked this question, and that's another, I want to dwell on that for a moment too. It's a very short dua, no more than 7 words. I mean, when she asked this question, إذا أدركت أو علمت أي ليلة القدر ماذا أقول? If I witness or I know which night is the night of decree, what do I say? The response of the noble messenger was these 7 words. This short dua wasn't an action plan, wasn't a roadmap, wasn't a long dua, wasn't a set of duas. This very short, concise, brief, succinct dua. See, something like this is worthy of dwelling on. As if to say to her, if you recite this with comprehension and with sincerity, this is enough. Obviously with the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jal, this is enough to guarantee you salvation. Nothing complicated. Another question, what drove her? What motivated her to ask this question? al-Mu'minin Aisha radiallahu anha, as-Siddiqatu bint as-Siddiq. She was obviously the wife of the Messenger. She spent 9 years with him. She saw things that we never saw. What the Salaf never saw. She was in the house with him. Imagine her experiences, what she heard, what she saw. The subtleties that we will never know. So she was his wife, and that's a virtue in and of itself. And she was a faqihah. Very, very astute. Faqihah means from fiqh. She had a deep and profound comprehension of this deen. In fact, Al-Imam al-Hakim al-Naysaburi, one of the famous muhaddithin, says that ربع الشريعة أخذ منها. A quarter of the sharia has been taken off her. There are only 3 narrators, prolific narrators before her. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, and Anas ibn Malik. And she, in 4th place, narrates 2,210 ahadith. Very, very astute. Some ulama, not many, but some ulama have suggested that she has more virtues to her name, more fada'il, than her father Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. A very, very special, very astute and intelligent and knowledgeable, scholarly person. So we're not talking about any person here. This is Aisha radiallahu anha. Now imagine her comprehension and reflection. How do we know that she was a reflective person? Because there's a narration that one of her relatives, Al-Qasim ibn Muhammad, rahimahullah, would visit her in the morning and give her salams and then go about his business. He came on one occasion to the house and heard her reciting the verse فَمَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا وَوَقَانَ عَذَابَ السَّمُومِ, reciting it and weeping and crying and sobbing. Allah says in this verse, Surah Al-Tur, Allah is mentioning the people of Jannah, that they will say, Allah has graced us and favored us and protected us from the scorching punishment, meaning of Jahannam. She was crying, weeping and repeating this. He stood there, wanted to speak to her. He stood so long, he just left. He went to the marketplace, went about his business, came back and heard her reciting the same verse and weeping. What does that show? There are many examples like this. I mentioned in my khutbah on Friday. Just to suffice with this, because I don't take too long. This shows comprehension. Just to recite one verse again and again and be so impacted and affected. It shows comprehension and reflection. And that's what she was like. And what? Was she like this with just this verse? Obviously with the whole Quran. So let's go to Surah Al-Qadr now. When we recite Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr, bear in mind this whole surah now, it's not like one verse or 2 verses or half the surah. The whole surah is about Laylatul Qadr, isn't it? Whole surah. One noteworthy item of information. And look at the way it begins. We, the royal regal we, as if to say nahnu. Allah's talking about himself. We have revealed it. And this dhamir is also lit-ta'zeem. It, like to say, you know what we're talking about. This is the Quran. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr. And then to add to that majestic tone, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. Imam al-Sha'bi here says, there are no words, there are no phrases, no words to communicate to us as humans the seismic nature of this night. The Quran being revealed from the Lawh al-Mahfuz to Bayt al-Izzah, this mind-boggling, breathtaking occasion and event, there are no words, no phrases, no terminology to explain to us so we can conceive the majestic, the ginormous, seismic nature and reality of this night. So what does Allah say to us? وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ. What will make you know what that night is? And then after it, لَيْلَةُ الْقَدْرِ خَيْرٌ مِّنْ أَلْفِ شَهْرٍ. The night of power and decree and greatness is better than 1,000 months. And some Mufassirin have said, الرقم والعدد غير مقصود. That number is not intended 1,000. To the Arabs, that 1,000 just meant a huge astronomical figure. So the number itself, 1,000, according to some of the Mufassirin, is not intended. What's intended is a huge number that our minds can't even begin to comprehend. See the way Allah described this night. Now, al-Mu'mineen, Aisha radiallahu anha, she understood all of this. She comprehended this, reflected on this. And the saying of the Messenger also, وَمَنْ حُرِمَ خَيْرَهَا فَقَدْ حُرِمَ. And if you are deprived of the blessed nature of this night, then indeed you have been deprived. All of this in Aisha's mind, radiallahu anha, drove her and prompted her to ask, Ya Rasulullah, if I witness this night, what do I say? What do I say? And then he taught her this dua. What's the lesson for us? What's the lesson? Obviously to recite the dua with comprehension, with sincerity. But not just the dua. Everything we do. Everything we do. Like I said, Abu Sulaiman al-Darani, rahimahullah, he would say, ما نظرت إلى شيء إلا أخذت من ذلك الشيء عبرة. Never do I look at anything except I take from that thing a ibra, a lesson, a moral, a benefit. Allah says in the Quran that there are people who just walk in His creation, in this world, oblivious, unaware of so much around them. وَكَأَيٍّ مِّنْ آيَةٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَمُرُّونَ عَلَيْهَا وَهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. How many signs in the heavens and the earth do they pass by? And they are turning away from. Everything can be a sign. But we just need to reflect. Reading is good, like I said 2 weeks ago. But the whole process doesn't begin and end with reading the Quran. And as I mentioned, then Al-Hasan al-Basri understood that there was a problem at his time. Some of the Qurra would focus more on the reading and the tajweed at the expense of understanding, reflecting and acting upon. And he said his famous words, إِنَّ اللَّهَ أَنزَلَ الْقُرْآنَ لِيُعْمَلَ بِهِ فَاتَّخَذُوا تِلَاوَتْهُ عَمَلًا. Allah has revealed the Quran to be acted upon and practiced. And some people have taken just reading the Quran as acting upon the Quran. Now that's a good first stage, to read it, to listen to it, to know how to read it, memorize it. That's all part of the first stage. We need to move on to understanding it, nay, comprehending it, and reflecting upon it, and then acting upon it. And this is exactly what our Salaf did. And there are so many examples. Abu Sulaiman al-Darani himself, he would say, I would remain on one verse for a number of days. لا أجاوزها. I would stay with one verse for so many days, just reflecting on that one verse. Not going past that one verse. Sufyan al-Thawri would choke on his words in Maghrib Salah when he got to إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. He wouldn't be able to continue reflecting on إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينَ. Imam Abu Hanifa would be dwelling all night on وَامْتَازُوا الْيَوْمَ أَيُّهَا الْمُجْرِمُونَ. Separate yourselves, O criminals, on that day. So the takeaway message is, we need to deeply and profoundly reflect. This, see, when I say deeply and profoundly reflect, this is taxing, it's mentally taxing. It's mentally draining. But who said Jannah is going to be cheap? Unfortunately, this day and age, we're so used to entertainment. We just want to sit down, watch a TV, watch a program, and just be entertained. We don't want to really do, like I said before, إعمال العقل, really exert and employ the intellect. تحديق القلب. These are phrases the ulama have used. تحديق القلب means to stare and to gaze, meaning to concentrate and to focus with your heart. And تقليب الشيء في الذهن, to flip and turn things in your mind. Really look at things from every angle, inside, outside, on top of, beneath. Really turn things over. Otherwise, how did people like Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, write 70 pages on As-Samad? On this day and age, you ask somebody, what does As-Samad mean? They'll be probably clueless. So to produce 70 pages explaining it is something deep and profound. His student Ibn al-Qayyim, producing his whole book, Madarij al-Salikin Bayna Manazil Iyyaka Na'budu wa Iyyaka Nasta'in, almost 1,000 pages on just Iyyaka Na'budu wa Iyyaka Nasta'in. The famous Imam and Faqih, Shaykh al-Shafi'iyya, Ibn al-Qas, Al-Hafidh Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani in his famous Fath al-Bari, Sharh Sahih al-Bukhari, says that he extracted from a simple hadith, Ya Aba Umayr, ma fa'ala al-Nughayr. O Abu Umayr, the young brother of Anas ibn Malik, what's happened to the Nughayr, your small bird? Because it died. Ibn al-Qas extracted, rahimahullah, 60 benefits. This is a narration that some Orientalists have said, what's the point of Bukhari including this in his book? And somebody like Ibn al-Qas extracts 60 benefits. We until Maghrib together, our brains put together, will be hard pressed to come with 20. There's so much in our deen to reflect on, to research, to read, to be getting on with. And what's mind-boggling and makes a person dumbfounded is where some people say, I'm bored. I'm just bored, I don't know what to do. What do you mean you're bored? You've read all the books, you've reflected on everything, there's nothing else to do. When a person says they're bored, this is maybe perhaps because they are boring people. They can't stimulate their own selves with their own mind and intellect. May Allah grant us the tawfiq to understand. May Allah make these last few days a source of khair and barakah, and not just khair and barakah, but a source of impact and transformation, a life-changing transformation, a taghayyur in our lives. Reading the Quran is good, but not just for barakah. It has to impact us. Otherwise, if we do this with Ramadan and the Quran, yes, the obligation is lifted. We've done it. But to what degree have we been impacted and affected and transformed? هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله تعالى على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.